graduate of Oneonta. I did graduate in 78, but I started in 68, so it took me 10 years. So no, I'm a four-year guy. I did spend one summer up there taking some classes, and that was interesting. But so this was not available to me when I was at college. And first of all, if anybody can't hear me or the volume's too high, too low, let me know, or anything in between. So it was Oneonta didn't have really an outreach program. And so when they reached out to me, I was thrilled to do this. We've done it for, I think, 3 years. This might be the fourth, and we've done it in person, obviously. And so this is the first time we're doing it remote. So I'm going to try to give you a little high level, 10, 15 minutes. I've got a little, visual presentation that helps along. And then I'll turn it over to Bill, and then I think we'll be open to questions. But I'll just give you a little background. When I got out of college, I was confused. I didn't know really, what jobs were available. I didn't know what I was good at. And I floundered a little bit, went from job to job. And then all of a sudden I got, quote, a break. I started working with a very high profile developer in Manhattan. And it's just a happen chance that I got the job. And it was like all of a sudden the light went on. It was my Sunday night blues went away. I like going to work. And it's really been pretty much the same ever since. I somewhat zigzagged in the real estate business to starting my own company in 1991. But, that was, again, I find it, when you really know what you want to do, it's really a blessing. And I'm just trying to impart a little bit of what real estate developer means. So if anybody has any questions, or we'll just start with I'll try to do, I go on forever, but I'll try to make it a 10, 15 minute, just brief overview of the real estate industry, of what I think a developer is. I'll show you a couple of my deals, and then we'll go from there. David works with me, David Meister.
Hey, everybody. I think whoever's the host has to let me have access to share my screen if possible.
It's probably.
Oh, hold on a minute. Let me.
Here we go. It worked. I got it.
Did it work?
Yeah. Okay. Everyone can see the screen?
Yep.
Okay, so that's
cool.
Let's go to the first one, Leyton Property. So we're located Midtown, though we haven't been to our office in a long time, and I'm not exactly sure when we're going back or if we're going to go back to the same place. So, but we've been located in Manhattan for probably the last 8-9 years. Before that, had offices out in suburbia, Long Island, because again, that's where a lot of my business was done. So I want to give you just the next page, David, which is, and you can make that the whole screen, if you will. I don't know. This is just basically what we see. And again, we put this together, fairly quickly, but just to give you an overview of what I think, if we're going to graduate and said, hey, what do I want to do in real estate? I want to be in real estate. Well, there are lots of different things, obviously, from the left on financing. You can work at banks, local or regional, and there's inside that, there's commercial lending, which is, large construction financing or structured financing on large, multifamily properties. Then there, the other firms that do this are opportunity funds. And again, we can go into that if there are any questions later for insurance company. And private lending would be, people get together and they lend their own money out. And then there's the part of the business that does with appraisals and valuations, and those are consulting firms and or appraisal firms. They deal with obviously those things here: cost analysis, comparables. Let's say you're buying a piece of property, what's it worth? The bank wants to know how much it's worth. And so there's, again, whole industries behind this, and within this there are industries. So then I'm in the development and investment portion there, which is, we acquire properties. Part of our structure, we'll go into that in a minute, is we have to usually raise capital. We don't do it with all of our own money. So we, go to a bank for some money. We go equity, which either, my equity, friends' equities, or, we'll do some institutional equity partners to buy these properties and develop them. Then also there's obviously for us, for the development, there's a lot of construction which I'll show you some of the jobs. And that's usually a part of it. And asset management is a little bit after you've really got a property up and rented and stabilized. Then there is the asset management of, how do we rent, what's the insurance, what's the, how do we staff the property, etc. Construction, there's many different avenues of construction, but civil engineering really has to do with the site and where the sewer is coming from, where the water is coming from. The structural is obviously anything really mostly above ground. It does with the footings and foundations, etc. Environmental, which is very big, has to do with, as it says, the environment, but it has a lot to do with also traffic, how much traffic is there on the road, does it affect school-age children, how many kids are coming into the school district, all things like that that might impact a piece of property. And then with that, there's project management and there's owner's rep, there's general contractors, lots of different ways to deal with construction. I think architecture is pretty self-evident. There's a plethora, especially in New York, of talented designers and architects and interior designers, and they have certain followings. So and I'll show you one of my projects, we were very thoughtful on who we brought in and what that meant to the team. A brokerage, lots of people start off in brokerage. It's not an easy way because a lot of it is commission, but there are investment sales or selling properties that have a cash flow to it, or it could be development property, residential sales, very big in Manhattan, of selling the condos and co-ops. There's the commercial leasing office space. And then this has become a lot bigger over the last, since I've been in the business, companies that do capital raising, actually raise equity. There's always there used to be the mortgage brokers that used to do debt to get bank financing, but a lot more now became a real cottage industry of the equity raising. Property management, same thing as we talked before. Legal, and Bill will talk more about it. I put you down at the bottom there, Bill, with litigation, but it is, there's every piece of this there's legal in it, right? Negotiating your agreements with your construction team. There are specific guys that are very good at it and what clauses need to be in it. Your purchase and sale documents, your loan documents with your banks. There's also your partnership documents when you're forming JVs with these equity, Wall Street firms. Attorney General when you're selling residential properties in Manhattan, condos. You need to go to the Attorney General to make sure that the prospectus is done. And then Bill will speak, about his got a very deep a bench there at his firm, very well known for real estate in all the facets. And then we just added, which is becoming more and more, sustainable properties, green energy, solar, wind, but also just getting the certification, which is a very energy efficient building under LEED certified. So these are somewhat just very big, broad brushstrokes of real estate discipline. Then there are property types right within this. So you could be a investment broker, but only deal with, well, I'm only selling senior developments, or I'm selling affordable housing, or I'm only doing appraisals on multifamily or single family rentals, which has become, since this downturn. I mean, there were single family rentals before, but it became a whole industry with the downturn, that of all these single family homes that were left, people, Wall Street formed these companies that then bought them and rented them out. So just, again, another part that is really was born out of, troubled times. So that's the residential. Then there's the mixed use, which is usually got residential and retail below. It's a vertical building, 5, 10, 20 stories. You can do that with retail and office. And then, something that we're getting involved with out in the suburban markets is more than just a specific type, is a live, work, and play, where you would have retail, you would have some office, you would have apartments, and other amenities of a park and tennis courts, things like that. The retail, which is obviously going through a very difficult time now. Lots of vacancies started before with Amazon and a lot of the mom and pops couldn't stay in business. But they are being, repurposed for a lot of this live, work, and play. But still, I don't think retail is going away. Industrial, I don't deal with industrial at all, but these are some of the property types. Again, we haven't really dealt with office, and you can see with office, we put shared workspace in there with WeWorks. Also something that was, talk about 15 years ago, there wasn't such such an industry, very small, that became big. Land, which some people just buy land for an investment, and some do it, which is what we do. We then do it and add it to our development projects. Hotels, entertainment, pretty self-explanatory. And then same thing, healthcare. So those are the, so you take your disciplines and now you have it. Now this is the developer. What does the developer do? So we really do, really across the board here. It starts with site selection. How do we get a deal? A broker will bring us a deal, connections through attorneys, through engineers, through just people you get to be known, and people will present you with opportunities. And what do? You have to look at the property and make sense of it. There is the first part of it really for me, and again, I'm going to concentrate mostly with suburban properties, is the topography. What do we have there? Is it steep slope and also wetlands? Is the land suitable to build what we want to build? Does it have enough bearing capacity? Zoning, can I get the homes that I want to get on this property, or do I have to change the zone from office to residential? And then with that, once that meets that criteria a little bit, then we go through the financial analysis. What can we sell the homes for, rent the homes for? What is if the market turns a little bit? What is if we go to contract and we think we're getting 100 homes, but only get 80 homes? So all of this, figures into it. And then, the deal structure. Are we going to bring only equity? We're going to bring debt? What's the pricing? Cost analysis goes back to a little bit the same thing. Budgeting. We somewhat know a lot of our costs because we've been doing this, and it changes. Lumber right now has been going crazy in regards to pricing. So we thought prices were going to be at this level, and now they're 1.2, 20% higher. So again, that's part of the cost analysis. Capital formation I talked about a little bit, and I'm talking fast just to get a lot in, and we can go back and address any of this if you want. Capital formation again is, how am I going to buy this deal? I remember somebody told me the story. This is back in the time that there were a lot of foreclosures, and this guy says, "Get me into this bank. I want to buy this deal." It's like a $10 million deal. So I want to buy this deal. And so the broker got them the meeting, whatever. They went through it. They somewhat came to an agreement of $10 million. And there's obviously, the contract deposit. You had to put down 10%, $1 million. And this says true story. The guy turns to the purchaser turns to the broker and says, "Where am I going to get that type of money?" So it's a joke, but it's true. It's like where are you getting capital to do this, right? You don't want to go down the road and think that, hey, I'm not going to get a mortgage, or I'm not going to get debt. I don't have enough money. I don't have a rich father. Where am I getting it from? How am I doing that deal? Then once you're really going live, again, and we deal with these people a little bit before. I might call a marketing team or some brokers to find out about it. I'll speak to my finance brokers. I'll speak to my legal team a little bit as the deal is becoming live, and to find out, am I going to be able to get the change of zone? Am I allowed to get, or can I get the as of right, or things like that, etc. Then operations and management. This is again a little bit prior to building and also afterwards, which is, the site plan layout. Where am I putting the roads? Where am I putting the sewer? Where do I have to stay away from this neighbor, that neighbor? Where can I get traffic in and out? The floor plans, we spend an inordinate amount of time really making sure and pining over where the bathrooms are and where the space is and how big the rooms are. Are they 11 by 14s? Are they 12 by 13s? And where the closets are, etc. And then comes into the construction scheduling, as we start really getting into operations, the day-to-day operations. So that's the developer. So we've been doing now, and also this is somewhat new, is active adult communities. So these are communities that are, I think the only one in the United States by fair housing is that you're allowed to discriminate by age. So you can't be 55 or younger, or you can't be less than 55 or have school-age children that live with you unless there's a medical need. And as you can see, this is becoming a more and more popular, desirable type of development, because people are aging in America and in the New York area. As you can see, the baby boomers are coming and more. And they want to sell their house. They don't want to live in a neighborhood that is, a lot of young kids. They don't want to take care of the big house anymore. They don't want to mow the lawn or have something to do it. And we offer a different lifestyle, which is a clubhouse and a pool and barbecue and bocce and pickleball and friends and drinking and all that stuff. So that's what we've been doing a little bit lately. We're building our fifth one. You can go to this website. You can see this is a 146 unit that we're building in Brookfield. So let's go to now the next, which is, so this is one that we're currently building out in Mount Sinai, Long Island, North Shore of Long Island. It's 91 units. It's on 17 acres as it shows. We purchased this in 2019, perfect timing for COVID. So we had to, and we thought we were an essential category, and we were only doing in the beginning site work, which is moving the dirt and putting the sewer and the gas and the water, and they still shut us down, and we only had like 2 people on the site doing it, but so we lost quite a few months there. We're selling these houses, and you can see they're attached between $570 and $800, and this has a gym, yoga, pool. It's we'll show some of the pictures right now. So I gave you also a little bit of some interest in generally I uncovered peeled back the onion a little bit to give us some of the financial overview. But this is, and I'll ask you maybe which one, because I'll show you 93rd Street in a moment, which is an urban development. And I said this was a farm before. It was not being farmed. It was vacant for many years, and you can see it was surrounded by houses, so it was somewhat out of place. And so we bought it. The actual owner before this went through the entitlements, and just real quickly, so there's 77 market rate units you have to sell as part of the town code. 14 of them had to be affordable. Net revenues were selling at $60 million. Total cost between land, hard costs, which is to build the houses, the option hard costs, the site costs to put all the roads in, and the clubhouse. Soft cost $11 million to pay for all the people that do it, to pay taxes, marketing, insurances is huge now, all of that. And there's a profit, theoretical profit of $9.5 million. And as I don't know if anybody is for the IRR, but basically an unlevered deal without bringing any other debt is about a 21%. And as you can see, the structure is all equity and no debt. So that's unusual. In the past, a lot of deals and take debt, get a construction lender. It's difficult to get construction lenders now, especially for sale housing. So we have done now all equity. And the benefit a little bit of this type of development, I'll compare it to the other, and I'll move quickly through that, is, as you can see, this is a suburban development. So I don't build the whole job out. I don't go build 91 homes. I put up a model building, which is the first building you come in on the left-hand side across from the clubhouse. We furnish it, we market it, that's actually the second one over, that we're now in the process of doing it. We'll show you some pictures of it. Then we take contracts, and then we start building the houses. So that's why, as you can see, $20 million of equity. for $50 million of cost. They go, well, that's magic. How do you take $20 million and finance the $50 million in cost? Well, by the time I'm done with the 8th, 9th, 10th, 13th house, whatever it is, I've sold that house. I'm still building the 16th, 18th, 20th house, but now the proceeds from that sale is coming in, and I'm taking those sales, the people that are paying me $700,000, I take that and I put that back into the project and I recycle it. So that's a little bit different from a model that's financial structuring, different than what would be the vertical deal that I'll show you. And let's show you the pictures of this. So that's the clubhouse renderings. Nothing's built yet. We just are in the process of finishing the model. We have a sales trailer there, and we're taking deals. I think we've sold like 8 or 9 so far. There's the gatehouse. That's what a typical building will look like from on the left side, and the right side is a little closer. This is the clubhouse, which is going to be built. So absolutely going to be stupendous. That's as you enter on the top left. The design is what we call really transitional. It is contemporary with a traditional feel. The right side, upper right, is upstairs. When you get upstairs, there'll be the fireplace and a lounge area. Also, the lower left is where the bar will be, and downstairs is the card room. Pretty luxurious. So for people that are selling their houses, they get this. This is now basically interiors of our houses. Basically, again, since it's an active adult, 55 and older, the master bedrooms are always on the first floor, and then the auxiliary space, if they want, is upstairs with the loft and things like this. But this is all first floor stuff that you're seeing here. That's the only one we have, David, on the outside? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, next deal, and I'll run through this. What's the timing? I'll make this real quick. So this is a building that we are now just open for sales. Again, we hit it perfectly with COVID. It's a 14-story building. It's on the Upper West Side. I bought the property from a synagogue, Herrick, which is the second oldest synagogue in New York. They are coming back in to the property. As you can see, the limestone front there is their entrance, and they will be upstairs on that second floor, and their sanctuary is on the first floor through those doors.
Beautiful, beautiful building.
Yeah, it really is. It's gorgeous. And ODA is an architect who is well known. He didn't build anything on the Upper West Side until this. Now he's building quite a few. And his mantra really is indoor, outdoor. So as you can see, this is quite unusual for the Upper West Side, but it's not glass building. This is UHPC is the facade, which is ultra high performing concrete. As you can see, there's a lot of undulation to the facade with the beveled edges. Those are floor to ceiling windows and a lot of outdoor space. So people will get the top 5 floors are full floors. They're getting about 500 square feet of outdoor space. So it's quite unusual. And again, we brought in, that was a part of the team building, bringing in Iran. We hit it off. I think he's a great guy, great, architectural mind. Great, who's the interior designer. Also, you'll see through some of these pictures of what they do. David? Again, just quickly, this is the pro forma. You can pick and choose which one you want. The pluses and minuses. Here, you're building the whole building. So that's $69 million. That is cost. I have to finance that with a construction loan, with equity and preferred equity, which is EB5. We won't go into it. It's a middle part. It's like a second mortgage, if you will. And this is a pretty tight deal, and it's gotten a lot tighter in the post-COVID, and our costs have gone up. But this is where we were at a little while ago. And again, this is the IRR to the equity, to the $14 million equity. And the good news is that in one way, where the tract development that we showed you, Mount Sinai, you build a home, you sell a home, you build it, and you do more than that because you get ahead of it. But here you build the whole building and then you deliver the units, hopefully their sales. Let's go on here. So here's the inside. On the top left is going to be the lobby. It's the back part of the lobby. If you can see on the on the front side there of where the door is, that's actually still part of the interior. We have a tree that's on the interior lobby. Right side is one of the smaller kitchens. This is then downside. Here is, I think, a full floor of one of the units. As you can see, the floor to ceiling windows, and you can see through the window the outdoor space. Next page. Here's the outdoor space of one of the units. The upper one on the right is what's on the roof, and it'll look basically exactly like this. Next one. That's it. So, I'm sorry it took a lot of time to get through it, but that is development. That's what we're doing. That gives you just a big overview. And I'm sorry it took so much time, Bill.
No, that was great.
Take it over, and then we'll, if there's
So
time.
I have to tell, hi, I'm Bill Frieden. I have to tell you guys, Scott and I had never met, and we spoke for the first time the other day, but I spend most of my time with people like him because I'm drawn to them. I'll get to that in a second. I'll tell you a little bit about my experience. My lost years came actually as a professional more than in college. So I graduated in 1984. I probably call my 4 years in Oneonta the best 4 years of my life, although I don't think my kids would say that. I can say that around my wife because I met her in Oneonta. Still together after all these years. She's a very patient woman. I'm sorry I'm not seeing you guys in person. I promise you I'm much better looking in person. So if you want to come back next year to my office where I usually host people, like Scott, I'm in Midtown. My office is on 33rd and Park Avenue. I am going to my office a couple of days a week. I've been doing that since July. So I actually knew I wanted to go to law school when I was in college, and I hate a lot of aspects of the practice of law, but I like being in front of people. I like entertaining. I don't know if all of you were on the phone when I was showing Scott pictures of me when I was the lead singer in a band in Oneonta. So I like audiences. It's funny, I'm a litigator. 95% of litigators never leave their office and just do papers. I'm the guy who actually likes to be in front of people. I get nervous every time I walk into a courtroom. For those of you're all younger, you probably never heard of a guy named Bill Russell, one of the greatest athletes that ever lived, great basketball player, used to throw up before every playoff game that he was going to play. So I'm the kind of guy that is nervous as hell every time I'm going to go into a courtroom. I had a 3-week jury trial a couple of years ago in New Jersey, and I was nauseous and sick every single morning until I walked through the doors of the courtroom, and then I was fine. So I subscribe to the Bill Russell theory. But in any event, I graduated. I went to school at Hofstra for law school. I had done very well in Oneonta, but the law school LSAT was not my cup of tea. Hofstra was fine, but it wasn't Harvard. I didn't graduate and go to work for a big firm making lots of money. I went to a small firm and learned how to be a trial lawyer. It's probably good in the long run because I learned to do things that have served me well later on, but it was tough at the beginning when you have loans for undergrad and law school, which my wife reminds me all the time we were paying off well into our marriage. I grew up on Long Island. I didn't come for a whole lot of money. My parents were educators. They were great parents, but I had to take out loans for everything. In any event, I graduated. I worked in some small firms, ended up at a fairly large insurance defense firm, and I traveled all over the United States and into Europe handling cases for the London insurance market. I really didn't want to be an insurance defense lawyer, and I ended up leaving that firm and going to a boutique firm that did mostly real estate stuff. And I got an affinity for real estate and construction work. I like real estate developers, guys like Scott. I say that they're somewhat cowboys because they're risk takers. You heard Scott talk about what he does. He takes real risk, because even when you take out loans, as he can tell you, when you borrow money from a bank to build a project, your ass is on the line if something goes wrong. And I'm drawn to people like that. I wish I had actually done it myself, but I think my chosen thing was to be representing guys like that. But after a few years of doing that, I left and opened a New York office for a Florida law firm, and it was a catastrophically bad decision. I'm telling you guys this story because it's kind of a story of survival. And after a year and a half of that, I found myself out of a job because we agreed to mutually part and working out of my house for clients. Luckily for me, in a short period of time, maybe 4 weeks, I managed to get an interview with the firm I'm at now, which is called Herrick Feinstein. So my firm has been around for probably close to 100 years, very well known in the real estate industry. And I did real estate, but I also did construction. And I had come out of 2 straight partnerships that were unhappy. I didn't want to be anyone's partner at that point. But I did see an opportunity. I had talked to a bunch of firms. I did see an opportunity to go to this firm because they did a lot of construction, and we do everything. And I'll talk about some of the other stuff in a minute. But I do real estate, but I do construction also. And I thought it would be a great opportunity to slide into a firm that if you do real estate, you're going to have construction issues. And they didn't have anyone with my experience, which I had developed over the previous 5 or 6 years and was still growing. And I thought it was a great opportunity. So I said to them, I don't want to be your partner. Why don't you bring me in as what we call an of counsel position? And I have to be honest with you guys, I didn't ever anticipate that I would end up where I am now. You have to say my firm at the time, we're close to that now, but at the time the firm was about 200 lawyers. I had worked at an insurance defense firm. I had worked at small firms. My firm now was the kind of firm that I could never have gotten an interview at when I was in law school because they weren't interviewing people from Hofstra. And I wasn't on the law review and I didn't go to one of the top schools. So it was exciting to me to even be interviewing there, and they ended up making me an offer and I went there. Now it's 15 or 16 years later. I'm an equity partner in the firm, which, you know, we have different levels of partner. We have contract partners and equity partners. The equity partners are the people who own the firm. I'm the head of the litigation department. I've sat on the compensation committee and been the head of collections for a long time. Miserable jobs, by the way. But I say that to you guys because I like to, you know, I said to Scott the other night, you know, I like to believe I'm a survivor. When I was sitting in my house after the deal with the Florida firm fell apart, I thought I was never going to find a job again. So plus, you know, we all understand, you know, I loved Oneonta, and I think it is a far more prestigious place than when Scott and I went there. I don't think with my high school grades I'd get in now. So you guys are going to a far more prestigious school than when we went there, although you couldn't have a much better time than we did. So I'll tell you that, and get an education. But I managed to survive and do it. So I want to tell you a little bit about what I do so you can understand. Like I said, I represent, you know, people like Scott as well as others. I do primarily 3 types of disputes. I do real estate disputes, I do construction disputes, which is really, to me, a subset of real estate, and I do business divorce litigation. And I say, and that's actually related to the other 2, because for those of you who don't know, New York is a unique place in that a lot of the real estate in New York is still controlled by old line families that have had it for many, many years. So to give you an example of a business divorce, a lot of them involve families. Mother and father acquire lots of real estate holdings over the years, decide that they want to retire or hand it over to the children. They have 3 or 4 children, maybe nieces and nephews, who never really put in the effort and take over and then end up fighting with each other and want to shoot each other. I do a lot of that. I do a lot of stuff representing developers like Scott. I run the construction practice at my firm as well. To give you an example of what I do, you heard Scott talk a lot about, you do financing when he buys property and you develop. An example of what I do is I'm representing a fairly well-known developer that's based in Brooklyn, but develops all over the country. And they were building what was going to be originally one of the most unique residential towers in Manhattan on Maiden Lane in the South Street Seaport. They hired an Italian construction company trying to break into the New York market. The project was, I think, 55 stories high. They signed a contract for $78 million with the contractor. The project was supposed to be done in the middle of 2018. And in the middle of 2018, they were about 30% done with the project. Had been shut down numerous times because they didn't know what the hell they were doing. A worker got killed on the site. They didn't have safety provisions in place. They hadn't bought out the what we call the trades, which are subcontractors. They had done nothing right. They tried to work things out with them, and after a while, they had to terminate the contractor. We're representing the developer, my firm, in a lawsuit against the contractor. The contractor's obviously suing us because the contractor says they didn't do anything wrong. Obviously, we disagree. We're suing them for about $150 million now. So, and by the way, the sad thing is that the project is not even complete yet. And, Scott talked a little bit about financing. My client, because of all the delays and problems, ran into problems with their lender. So they're fighting with their lender at the same time. So that's an example of one of the things I do. I've spent a lot of time over the last year and a half representing a hotel developer, building a developer that's built several hotels in Manhattan. They're building one in Greenwich Village now on Trinity Street. I'm sorry, Soho on Trinity Street. And we're fighting with the Metropolitan Transit Authority because the Transit Authority wants us to get off the sidewalk so they can do another project. Our position is that we have the right to be on the sidewalk. I won't bore you with all the details except to say fighting with the MTA is really, really difficult. Scott's nodding his head. They're, in my opinion, a bully. I've litigated against them many times over the years. They don't like me. I don't like them. They're tough. So those are, two examples of the kind of things I do. I'm usually the kind of guy that a real estate or construction person will bring in when things are not going to get resolved and they need somebody who's not afraid to actually go in and try the case. What I probably enjoy more than anything else is being in the courtroom, trying the cases. The problem with that is people in Scott's business don't want to go to trial because it costs a lot of money to go to trial, which I understand. And that's one of the reasons that you see, other than criminal cases, you see less and less trials nowadays because trials are so expensive. And not only does it cost a lot of money to go to trial, somebody like Scott, if he's ended up in a trial, instead of working on his projects, he's sitting next to me in the courtroom, which he doesn't want to do. So what I find now is cases go to trial if they're not about money, or if they're about so much money that there's just no way to resolve it. We're representing the homeowners of the probably the most expensive residential condominium complex in Manhattan. Next time any of you are in Manhattan, go by 432 Park Avenue, which was at one time the tallest building in the world. It's now the third tallest building in the world. We're representing all the condominium owners against the sponsor, which is kind of unusual because we usually represent. The sponsor is the same as a developer, for those of you who don't know. If someone like Scott builds a project and it's going to be either a condominium or a co-op, the developer is also called the sponsor because they sponsor the development. In this particular case, we're on the other side. To give you an example of how bad it is, and it's again a construction defect problem. There are people in this building who paid $40 or $50 million for their apartments who still can't move in because the construction is so bad. If you had seen the building, Scott's probably seen it. It's so tall and thin at the top that you had to actually account for the fact that you might be subject to issues relating to wind or storms because it's so high and so thin at the top, and they just didn't do that.
You're
So
talking about Macklow Steel, 432?
Correct. I'm not a big fan of Harry's, by the way.
Well, I live on the Upper West Side, so I see it out my window.
Right. So we're having all kinds, and it was the subject, for those of you who want to read about it, it was the subject of a major article in the New York Times a few weeks ago about all the problems in the building. So that's one of the projects we're working on. My firm is interesting because we're what you call a mid-sized firm. We're a little under 200 lawyers now. For New York, that's considered mid-sized. If you went to other states other than Los Angeles, Chicago, cities, we would be considered big, but for New York, we're considered mid-sized. And we have kind of a unique practice. We're really known as a real estate and litigation firm, but we do other things also. We have a corporate practice. We're not a corporate powerhouse, but we have what we call a powerhouse sports practice. So it's attractive for those of you, I assume everyone follows some sports. We represent the New York Yankees, we represent the New York Mets, we represent top-ranked boxing, we do work for the NHL, we've done work for the now Brooklyn Nets, we've done work for the Dallas Cowboys, who I hate because I'm a Giant fan. I'm a Met fan too, but I have to like the Yankees because they're a big client. So we have kind of a unique practice in that, we're an old line real estate firm, but we have lots of baseball tickets too, because they're great clients to have. So it makes us kind of unique for our space. And we have a unique culture also. We like to say that a lot of us have stayed for a long time, maybe could have made more money somewhere else because we like the culture. And the reason I bring this up is I'm telling this to all of you because you're young and starting out. You cannot put a price on happiness. Going to work every day is really hard. The harder thing has been staying home for the last year. But going to work and, I commute. Scott lives in Manhattan. I live in Westchester. I take the train every day. So if you're going someplace where you like the people you work with and you like the culture, I don't think you can put a price on that. And I tell this to young lawyers all the time. Don't jump somewhere else for a couple of extra bucks because you might end up being miserable. You're better off being someplace you're happy. It's a really, really important factor to me. And that's why listen, I keep waiting for the day that I'm going to find out that some relative I didn't know about died and left me a lot of money and I don't have to go to work anymore. But since I have to do this, you heard Scott say, he enjoys what he does every day, and he's obviously surrounded himself with people that he likes. The good thing about being in my position now is that I do get a say on who we hire. And I have to tell you, it counts a lot to me if I like you when I'm interviewing people. I tell people when I'm interviewing them all the time, I want to find out if I want to hang out with you. That doesn't mean you're going to hang out with me all the time, but if I don't, because we work long hours in the law business. Unfortunately, we're in a business that you get paid by your hour, and we spend lots of hours, even me, and I'm one of the guys running the firm. Before the pandemic, I was in the office at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I usually didn't leave till 6:30 at night, and that's when I'm not in trial. That's just the normal day. And a lot of that is spent sitting in my office, having people come in, the people who work for me ask me questions, which is part of my job, or talking on the phone all day long with clients. But you spend lots of hours, and even when we leave, we're still working. I'm sure Scott's job is 24/7. If he needs to be found, he's found. So happiness and surrounding yourself and being in a place that you're happy, to me, that's more valuable than anything else you could ever put a price on. So obviously you have to make a living, but don't discount happiness. So I've said a lot of stuff in a short period of time, and I know we don't have a ton of time left. So I think I'll shut up and let people, if any of you have questions for either of us, I think that would be the next best step. Laura, you want to take over?
Sure. Thank you both so much. Does anyone have any questions for Scott or Bill or both?
I can ask a question that will go towards both of you. What do you think, coming from Oneonta, what was your, what helped you the most going into the professional field and just at life after college?
Scott?
Yeah, again, I think I touched on it. I came out a little bit ill-equipped, and not for any other reason than myself, just my maturity, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And as I said, I think, you guys taking advantage of things like this, just to hear maybe something, sparks it. I didn't know that I don't think it was available. So I wasn't that well equipped when I left college. I had to find myself. Now I say, and I think Bill touched on it a little bit. We're scrapers and scrappers or whatever. We, are survivors in battle, and maybe that's not silver spoon wasn't in my mouth either. I grew up on Long Island, again, middle class, and so I'm thankful for that. But in some sense, it was again a social school. I was a social person in regards to be able to have the right people skills, and Bill touches on that of that has served me well until people get to know me. They like me. No, I'm just kidding. So I generally I don't know exactly anything that particularly got me ready because and it was a lot my fault, but I didn't have the ability to get out and find out internship and what was really going on outside.
So, for me, I mean, one of the things, is it William or Bill?
Oh, yeah, William works.
So, to respond to, one of the things we all coming from Oneonta recognize, we didn't, you're not graduating from Harvard or Yale, or my kids both went to Bucknell, even there, where doors open for you just because of your alumni. So what I think I got from it is, Oneonta is a very open and social place. At least it was when I was there. And I listen, doors can open from you, but if you can't stand on your own 2 feet after a while, that only goes so far. Talent always wins out in the long run to me. I've gone up against guys who had doors open for them my whole career. I love it because I had nothing handed to me, but I went to a place which was very social, and I'm very comfortable on my feet and in a social setting. And I agree with Scott on this. I have to tell you, one of the things that I developed, obviously said, I played in a band in school, so I was comfortable being in front of an audience. I took classes where you had to speak to the class. I think in the real estate business, in Scott's business and even mine, people being comfortable with you and confident in you goes a long way. You'll develop that as you get older, but when I talk to potential clients, I always, I want them to feel like I will run through a wall for them. And that is why people hire somebody like me. And even if I'm not handling the case, because I don't handle every case for a client, I have people who work for me, I have a lot of lawyers. The buck stops here. If something goes wrong, they call me and I fix it. So it is important. Loyalty is huge in Scott's business. I have clients that if you're not loyal to them, they don't want to know from you. So loyalty, integrity, and real estate has a lot of not so nice people. So the people who, they want to feel like they can trust you and you're going to run through walls for them. So and that's not just true in the law or the real estate business. I think it's true in almost any business. We represent banks. Banks want to feel the same way. So I developed skills when I was in college that I think, I made friends there. I learned how to be a loyal and good supportive friend. Those may seem trivial. They're not, those kinds of things. I think having to scrap, as Scott said, and not have things handed to you works well in the long run. It really does.
I have a question for everybody here. I don't know if you're in your junior or senior years. What percentage, or raise your hands, though I can't see everybody, have an inclination or absolutely know what they want to do, what their direction is? Does anybody on this phone have a direction? Stephanie, a little bit?
Yeah, but not like nothing like 100% go. Like, yeah.
But you have an inclination.
Yes.
Okay.
A slight one.
And anybody else?
No one's going to law school, right?
Maybe.
Well,
I think Bianca is. You can't see her, but she's got her thumbs up. I think.
Oh, I am not going to law school.
No. You know where you're going?
Well, I'm an education major, so like after this I have master's, so it's just like more binding to my future. So I kind of have to have an idea or I'm in the wrong major.
does that mean you want to be a teacher or?
Yeah, I want to be a teacher.
So I come from a family of educators. So,
Yeah, you mentioned that.
right. My dad was an elementary school principal on the Upper East Side of Manhattan my whole childhood. My mother was a teacher, then she was a special ed supervisor. My youngest brother is the middle school principal in the town that I live in Westchester now. So I have great respect for educators, the most underpaid class of people on earth.
Thank you.
Something needs to be done about that.
I'll work on it.
Is anybody thinking of real estate in any capacity? And what are you thinking about? What partners or any?
Not necessarily like not a real estate agent, more so like the developing part, like what you guys do, what you do.
Okay.
I don't know, my father, he's in the bank and deals with real estate and just giving out loans and stuff. So like
Sure.
he's given me some like things here and there, and like it's kind of sparked my interest. But like other than that, just probably somewhere in banking or finance.
So you hear the talk around the dinner table. You've heard it before.
Oh yeah.
And it's true. I mean, my father was an entrepreneur who came from London and, had a little bit of the European background. So again, things rub off on you. And, he was an entrepreneur and I didn't know what the hell it was. But some of those things, your life experiences do have impact. So just.
Just so you know, the real estate business to me is an incredibly interesting business. You just have to have a very strong constitution and stomach. I mean, you guys are too young to remember. Scott and I can remember, and again, I'm on the legal side of it. In 2008, 2009, the world was coming to an end.
It ended for me. What are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I lost. Jesus, that was the hardest time ever, and nothing I did that was my fault. It was just a correction based on subprime that then the market fell apart, and I was swept up in a tidal wave. I had 6-7 projects going on at the same time. I had a 25-person firm, and just it's amazing that I've made it through. But,
right. And until this pandemic, and by the way, I'm a firm believer that New York in particular, but the whole country, but New York in particular will recover from this because I just believe in New York. I've spent my whole life here. But listen, there was a time in 2008, 2009 that I was worried about us coming back from that, and we came back even stronger. I mean, we had to get rid of a lot of really quality lawyers in those days because we didn't have the work anymore. So I just say that to all of you. If you think about real estate, I think it's the greatest business to me, but it requires, you got to be willing to be a gambler.
Well, though, again, Bill, as I showed the discipline, right? You don't have to be a developer. You could be.
That's true.
You could be, working at a bank is Bill's father, or I don't know what capacity. I did that before I got to, that I went out and became a developer, and I liked it quite a bit. It was safe. I got a check. I played in the game a little bit. I enjoyed it. But, the calling was, as a developer, sitting theoretically at the top of the food chain, it's very creative, deciding, do I want to do this or don't I want to do that? But at the same sense, being up here, I'm beholden to everybody that's behind.
I just like the results aspect, Scott, the fact that you build like a beautiful project and, to me, there it is, a beautiful project. I mean, that to me, that's the nice part, the lasting, if you build something that's long lasting, that's nice.
Yeah.
I can tell people about trials that I've won, but they're just gonna have to take my word for it.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing. So I built a building in Brooklyn, and in all the periods of time and so I have Leyton Properties, which is my own company, and then I'm partners also with the guy that I started, Ornstein Leyton, in 1991, Alec Ornstein. And so all the time I was single, he was married. All the jobs we had, he named the projects or the names after his kids, a street, Avery Court, Halley, this, whatever. I didn't do anything. I get married, he gets divorced, so it just happens. I have kids, so I have young kids. So we built a building in Brooklyn, and I called it the Isabella. Well, it wasn't the greatest time because that was when Bear Stearns and everybody went under 2006 and 7. And I'm showing, my daughter the building, and so it has her name on it. And we completed it, we finished it, we got through it. But I said to Alec, my partner at North, I said, I'm not doing that again. I'm not naming any building after my kids. It's just, it's too much. So.
I have to tell you, I love that story, but I'm going to tell you, I actually have a meeting. I tell you a quick story to follow up on what Scott just said. One of the most interesting cases I ever had. And, and I'm a guy who gets emotionally involved with cases because my wife tells me that's why it's not good for my health, but it makes me effective. I actually care about my clients and their cases. I represented a guy who owned what was, his father had bought in the 1950s, what was the J&R Music Building. On Park Row in Manhattan, very famous building. And his father bought it. It was going to be, for the rest of their lives. And his father, unfortunately, died very young. And my client, whose name is Alan Steinberg, had the property for many years, and he decided to sell it to developers. And what he did was, the deal was, when he sold part of it, one side of it to a developer, they had to name the building after his mother. So his mother's name is Pearl. So he sold the building to a developer, and it actually says in the contract that the name of the building must be Pearl on the Park. And it's called on the Park because it's on Park Row. And what happened was the developer, and Scott can speak to this, ran into some problems. They had a bad contractor. And though, just so you guys can understand, for every decent contractor out there are 50 that suck. So they had a contractor, they did a lousy job, they didn't know what they were doing, they ran into problems. And at some point, their marketing person told them, you really shouldn't name it Pearl on the Park, you should do something else. And they said to us, you know what, we don't want to name it that. So we had to sue them. And we spent a long time litigating over it.
My God.
And by the way, the client's mother, who's now like 94 years old, was the most lovely, unbelievable woman. And he never told her what was going on because he didn't want her to get upset because she just knew it was going to, be named after her. So we spent a long time. I'll cut to the chase because I don't want to bore you.
Did you win? We want to know if you won.
Well, we ended up settling and hanging behind. I have pictures of a lot of things.
How could you split that one? What's it called? Pearl on the Pearl? What's it
No,
called?
hanging behind my desk in my office is a picture of Alan, my client, and his mother in front of the building with the name on the door, Pearl on the Park. It is, anytime I'm down, if I just look at that picture, I feel better.
Isn't that Ron Molis's piece?
What was that?
Didn't Ron Molis develop that?
No, well, I do. By the way, Sandy Long does. We do work for L&M also, by the way. They got the other side. L&M built the other side. They didn't run into problems.
They don't. They never do. Ron,
Well, Ron's a smart guy. Very smart guy.
I don't think he ever loses.
Well, in any event, I just, those kinds of little tidbits.
That's great.
Are interesting to me. It's always nice when you can feel good about representing people. Great. And that was one of them. So I actually have to go to a meeting now. I'm actually going to a meeting, Scott, about lender liability claims because we also do work for lenders.
That's always it. It's always you got to throw the lender liability in the kitchen too.
Maybe William's client is one. His father is one of our clients. Who knows? Well, listen, it was nice talking to all of you. Hopefully next time I will be seeing people in person. I look forward to that if possible. Scott, golf, definitely.
I'm going to call you as we go down to Charleston. I'll get your number. We'll talk.
For sure.
Okay.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.
I could stay on if there are any other questions, if you need or whatever you like.
Well, full disclosure, obviously I'm not a student, but I graduated from Oneonta in 91.
Okay.
And I'm a commercial real estate lender with Flushing Bank. And I saw your names on this seminar, and I haven't done anything with the Alumni Association in ages, and I just happened to pop up because I'd like to attend the reunion in the summer. Anyway, I really enjoyed your war stories, and to everybody else on the phone who are in school and looking for a career in real estate, I think the two guests here today have really wrapped it up incredibly, and you
Thank you.
Everything they've told you is 100% on the mark. I've had tremendous similar experiences. We could probably exchange war stories. My career took a lot of turns. I've been banking 25 years plus. And, again, I don't want to take up too much time or take the air out of the room, but I really appreciate this seminar, even though I have really nothing to do with it other than I'm an alumni, and I wanted to poke my nose in.
That's great. Thanks, Scott. No, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Scott, we're glad you could join us. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other
Oh,
questions
Scott.
or comments?
Sure.
That's yes, Scott Barber. Terrific. Well, Scott, I am thrilled that you and Bill were able to connect because it seems like there's some energy between the two of you, and definitely golf in the future, maybe even business.
Well, again, just a 30-second. So we started talking and when to graduate, blah, blah, blah. And he says his daughter's in, moving to, gonna be, she's in Charlotte, but moving to Charleston. I said, oh, really? And he goes, I'm gonna go down and visit her leaving in the middle of March. And so I married a woman from Knoxville, Tennessee, and we always go down to Charleston, and we're going down the same time. And so I said, you got to be kidding me. And he stays at the place that we always stay at. So I said, maybe we'll get together down there and golf. So I said, just a tiny world. So all networking, all roads, lead to the same thing. So if there's any, again, Laura, first time that I think we're meeting, but I'd be happy to support any of the Oneonta, avenues that need my, just input. I'd be happy to do it and share my contact information with everybody.
Great, thank you. Any other final comments or questions before we wrap up? Okay, terrific. Well, thank you all for joining us today. And I think our next session is next week. So hopefully all of you will be joining us for that as well.
Peace. Thanks, guys.
Have a great evening, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for your time.